Here we go. What is going on, Cover One crew? Welcome back to the show. Hope everybody is doing good. I'm always good. We're kind of pivoting today because, we've done so much content on these rookies, and I'm not done by any stretch of the imagination. I got more coming down the pipeline, but let's talk a little redraft. Who is pick number one this year in fantasy football? Yes, I understand everyone's going to say this is a moot point. It is CMC through and through, but is it really? We got four capable number one potential picks in the, very first pick in redrafts that we could absolutely discuss, and it's not just CMC, okay? And we got to understand, typically speaking, this doesn't happen all the time. It does happen, from time to time, I guess I should say it that way, because a guy who puts out as much productivity as CMC put in last year, they typically see some sort of regression the following season. However, playing with the San Francisco 49ers, you understand, they're loaded and they're ready to go, and CMC is definitely going to be in that top tier category once again. So my four on the board, we got Christian McCaffrey, obviously consensus number one. Number two consensus is CD Lamb, my dude. Unbelievable season this man just came off of. Tyreek Hill, consensus number three. And I'm throwing in a little Breece Hall as a consensus number six, even though a lot of y'all got a Jamar Chase as number four. And people are going to suggest, could Chase be the top dog in half PPR formats for redraft formats? I'm going to leave him off here because, volume is key always for running backs, and Breece Hall definitely deserves the respect this year to be suggested as the potential number one overall pick in redraft format. So let's talk a little CMC. 100% boom consistency rate, man. It's been a long time since I've been compiling all these numbers and seeing dudes hit over 100% on the boom consistency. That means each week, every single week, this man was hitting for you in that threshold. He did it last season, man. 16 games played, almost 1,500 rush yards, 14 TDs, massive 67 receptions, almost 600 yards and 7 TDs in the receiving game. Just an absolute beast. Over 2,000 all-purpose yards this past year. CMC was an animal, and I understand why everyone's going to be rushing to say he is the number one guy, but again, 49ers lose that Super Bowl, okay? And that wears on teams. There is no question. Go back and look at those Atlanta Falcons with a Kyle Shanahan. They were never the same after they lost to Tommy Touchdown in the fashion they lost. Yes, the 49ers didn't lose in that fashion, so the fire could still be burning in the furnace for them to continue and go down back to the Super Bowl. Is Brock Purdy the real deal? That's a question mark. He looks like the real deal. We've seen enough of the sample size to suggest that it is true, and we can trust somebody like a Brock Purdy to at least be the quote-unquote game manager, and I don't think that's a slight on the man whatsoever. He's very good at it, and he does everything he's asked to do in the Kyle Shanahan system, so I think that's still a positive. This offense should be no worse for wear. I mean, the Brandon Ayuk potential trade, the Deebo Samuel potential trade, that's all off the table apparently, according to general manager Lynch. So, I mean, they're ready to go, and they added a guy like Ricky Pearsall. Lots of weapons on this team, and CMC is definitely going to be the catalyst once again in that offense, man. Coming off a 339 touch season. This is what I'm saying. Are we going to see another full workload for a CMC coming into this season? Highly likely, but I mean, what's the efficiency going to be? Is his body going to break down? Is there potential for injuries? Abso-freaking-lutely. So much work was given to CMC this past year, and we've seen his history after getting such a massive workload. He does spend a little bit more time in that medical room, so definitely got to, keep tabs on that one as well. Added players like, okay, Mitchell's still there, but a rookie in Guerrero. I told you I'd get his name right eventually. Isaac G to backup plan, ease some touches. Is there potential that we do see a little bit more? Eli Mitchell's been the inconsistent one, unable to stay on the field, so Guerrero may be able to be that, serviceable change of pace back to alleviate and relieve touches from CMC to keep him fresh down the stretch, even though CMC played the whole season this past year. I mean, he was nicked up. He was not playing 100%. Nobody plays at 100% in the NFL, but how much of a regression will we see from CMC, man? Past two seasons, he's been the top two in fantasy football. Last year was a number one running back, so I'm telling y'all, will he repeat? Abso-freaking-lutely, he will be a top five running back. Is he worthy of the number one overall pick with all the potential injury that could transpire and maybe some lack of touches? CMC's definitely on the top at this point, and I understand why. CD Lamb, number two consensus. Massive season for CD Lamb, and I mean, We will discuss his statistical achievement, but we got to talk about these Dallas Cowboys. They did absolutely nothing to help the cause. They're broke as a joke, had no money to spend in the offseason, no real big impact players in free agency. The NFL draft, they filled holes, didn't necessarily make a massive splash, signed Zeke Elliott back to the team. You lost Tony Pollard, so you lost some playmakers, and you understand, okay, you still got Brandon Cooks. Jalen Tolbert's likely going to take a step increase in his productivity this year without a Michael Gallup and company. So, without a really great run game that we can say, I'm still a Deuce Vaughn fan. The jitterbug, I love some jitterbug, but I'm telling y'all, CeeDee Lamb blew up off the chain last year. 135 receptions for 17, 49, and 12 touchdowns. Ranked him as the number one wide receiver in all of fantasy football last year with over 335 points, y'all. Half PPR. He was an absolute beast, man. Dak off-field issues, that's another problem. Dak contract looming issues, that's another problem. Which way do the Cowboys want to go? Offensive line issues still prevalent in Dallas as well. So you do got issues here. So will they be playing from behind? At times, you got to believe that could be coming. The defense still very good, should keep them in contest, and at least Dak Prescott has proven that he can at least force feed somebody like a CeeDee Lamb to the tune of 181 targets, y'all. CeeDee Lamb was absolutely peppered last year. Brandon Cooks did a wonderful job scheming and pulling coverage from a CeeDee Lamb, getting him one-on-ones more often than not, and CeeDee definitely did not disappoint us whatsoever, man. Like I'm saying, limited wide receiver depth, no real running back room really to speak of. Is a repeat coming for a CeeDee Lamb in this sense, where we could see him be a 335-point getter? Abso-freaking-lutely, man. This is the thing. And Dak Prescott's going to be playing for his money, for his contract. You got Trey Lance in the back. I know a lot of people scoffing that off and saying, that's not going to happen. Trey Lance lost his job due to injury, never saw the field again, and we'll see, man. Jerry Jones may turn out to be a genius in this situation where he does not re-up a Dak Prescott to a new contract and gives the reins to somebody like a Trey Lance. We will see. I'm putting it out there right now. I will not be shocked if that happens. 82.4% on the boom consistency for a CeeDee Lamb. He is that damn good, and I'm telling y'all, he could definitely be warranting the number one overall pick in fantasy redraft. Number 3, Tyreek Hill, he's got 10 kids to feed. He's got to keep playing football, man. I'm telling y'all, but he was absolute dynamo. Before the season started, he said he wanted to be a 2,000-yard wide receiver. He was on pace to do this business. He almost got there. Injuries did, preclude that from happening. 16 games, and he never was right after that ankle that he did twist when he was running to the outside, and I believe it was a Monday Night Football contest. 119 receptions, almost 1,800 yards, man. Unbelievable year. 13 TDs. He was a wide receiver 2 last year. 81% on the boom rate. He was killing it on the booms every single week as well. But we know how the Dolphins season did end, man. They dealt with injuries upon injuries on top of injuries is what they dealt with in Miami. Tyreek promised those 200 or 2,000. He did almost get that, like I'm saying. He did miss that time. End of the season, it did not work out at the end, but he was still one of these top point getters that we can absolutely trust. Yes, they added somebody like an OBJ. Yes, they drafted a lot of wide receivers in 2 Washingtons, Malik and Taj. They drafted those guys. They still got other wide receivers that they have in this room to at least round it out and keep themselves fresh with a good level of depth. Tyreek Hill's still that animal, man. Jalen Waddle, he was not Waddle time. He was not necessarily the guy that we expected last year. He dealt with his fair share of injuries, never really found his game, so you got to believe a bounce back is coming for a Jalen Waddle as well. Tua has options now, even with an OBJ being that third wide receiver. They were craving for somebody to help out the cause, especially if, double teams hitting up somebody like Tyreek. Jalen Waddle goes down with an injury. It was very easy to game plan against these Miami Dolphins, man. So now you got a guy like OBJ. At least he can be the wide receiver 3, consistent, reliable hands, the guy that can absolutely pull coverage and keep it consistent if these guys do take a nap like a Tyreek Hill and a Jalen Waddle from time to time on some plays. Will he lose target share in 2024? That is the biggest question mark that I do have at this point. We saw how they peppered a Tyreek Hill. Do they want to go back into this season in that same respect? I highly doubt it. They're going to give him his, his cake, his flowers. He's going to get his target share. But do they want to, overuse him like he was used last year? That is a big question mark also. Hence why they went out to get, more speedy backs in a right, going to get an OBJ, hopefully to help out the cause, to alleviate all the pressure put on a Tyreek Hill. But he's absolutely definitely warranted in half PPR leagues as the top pick in drafts, no question. even though CMC still is, pushing everybody for their bread. I'm not even questioning about how good CMC is. Last one I got is number 6 consensus in a Breece Hall. Okay, don't scoff at this because this is legitimate. I don't care what anybody says. Consensus number 6 is too low on a Breece Hall, even though, okay, I understand you got to put these other wide receivers above him in half PBR. Biggest problem, they lost Aaron Rodgers basically on the first series, first 2 snaps of his Jets tenure, and then that was the season. They basically had to ride it all with a Zach Wilson, backup revolving door quarterbacks. It was not going to be good, and what was good, we saw Breece Hall come back from his ACL injury without any hiccups. This is fantastic. Now he's coming back year 2 off the ACL injury. Expect a Breece Hall to explode without question. Came back without setbacks is the biggest thing we wanted to see. Played all 17 games. Top 5 fantasy football season due to PPR upside. 76 receptions, y'all. Anybody that had question marks on Breece Hall's hands, get those question marks out of your freaking head because he absolutely killed it in the PPR game. He ranked as the number 4 running back last year, 252 points. He got 76 receptions, 4 receiving TDs, almost hit that 1,000-yard mark, 6 yards off and 5 touchdowns. So they were, still defenses were, tagging the run. They were trying and scheming up against the run, and Breece was still able to do some business, hence why a lot of checkdowns did go to him. Do we see the checkdown upside in the passes to Breece Hall go down this year? Absolutely, I see that going down. But we should and will see with an Aaron Rodgers. If Aaron plays all 17 games, you're going to see an absolute gem of a running game in New York with a Breece Hall. They added more running back depth, which I don't understand. There is 4 running backs in this room now. Massive volume upside for Breece Hall does exist. But, I mean, you got Braylon Allen, you got that rookie Davis, and you still got Abanikanda. So it's not necessarily fully experienced running backs that we should fear at this point. But, I mean, there's so many backs. I don't understand why they're loading up this running back room, but there is talent. Braylon Allen is one of these guys that I fear a lot because he is a bulldozer, lesser Derrick Henry type of running back, and they will go ground and pound. I don't foresee this not being the situation in New York. Breece Hall, though, is the top. He is one of the best running backs in this league. He's going to showcase that once again this season. Easy marker that we can bet on at this point, 1,200 rush yards, 8 rushing TDs, and then get somewhere anywhere from 45 to 50 receptions from this backfield from an Aaron Rodgers, especially if they're winning contests, closing out games. We're going to see some Breece Hall closing things out. His boom rate is why everyone is now down on this man. He was not overly consistent, but you have to understand the schematics of everything that went down in New York with these New York Jets. It was not a good situation when Aaron Rodgers went down. Now he's back. Let's see. They added some wide receiver talent as well. Garrett Wilson should have a phenomenal season. 0 stacked boxes coming for a Breece Hall. I'm telling y'all, I am so excited for Breece. The value to be a return on investment is absolutely huge and could be the top running back in all of fantasy football this year. There is no question in my mind. But if we're playing it safe, let's talk about this right now. You got the first overall pick. You can't pass up a CMC. Top pick for redraft right now is still CMC, but I'm telling y'all, I do put the caveat on the fact that he has been overworked this past year. We have seen the history in a CMC. I will not be shocked if he does find his way into the medical room at some point this season. However, he does look good. He looks fresh. He looks, very capable in this offense with San Francisco and Brock Purdy. So you can't shy away from a Christian McCaffrey. But if I'm taking the next back up on my board and you're trying to, say I'm going to, buck the trend on a CMC, Breece Hall is definitely my guy this year. But it's very difficult to go against Christian McCaffrey. It's going to be a very good season, but that's who I'm taking as my number 1 as we sit today in early May. But nevertheless, as always, don't forget to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, jump in those comments, give me your thoughts, and we'll see you next time. I am out.